Good evening. Welcome to Fortress Talk at Blacks in Cybersecurity. Excuse me. I'm Sarah Kishard with Great Castle Security. I'm a security strategist on the business services team. Back in February, you heard from Evan Hill, my fellow knight, and he brought you some information from the tech services team. So we work hand in hand together at Great Castle Security. Welcome everyone. It's great to see all of you fine folks filling up the chat. I love to, as we go along, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to pop those questions into the chat and we'll get the answers for you. All right. So, like I said, I'm Sarah Kishard with Great Castle Security, security strategist. Where did I begin? How did I get into the position where I am now? So my fascination with computers really started way back, a long time ago. I'm going to date myself a little bit here. Back in 5th grade, when my dad brought home a TRS-80 color computer. Yes, I am that old. I learned to program on that thing. I learned how modems work. We had an acoustic coupler where you had to take the receiver from the phone, the corded phone, and put it into this acoustic coupler, and that's how it transmitted. Hooked up, had to pay long distance service fees to connect to a bulletin board system, but it was really exciting, and that really fostered my interest in computers. Then throughout junior high, high school, I really gravitated towards the math and the science classes. Those were really held some great interest for me. Straight out of high school, I actually joined the Army. I became an Arabic linguist. So the funny story there. As we were going through basic training, you get your orders at the end of basic training of where you're going to next. And so there were some other linguists in my company, and we were comparing notes and trying to figure out which languages we're going to be assigned to. And so I'm trying to decipher mine, and I'm like, I think the class codes were like AR or something like that. And I'm like, no, they wouldn't put a female into Arabic, would they? Well, I got out to the Defense Language Institute, and sure enough, they put me into Arabic. So I spent about a year and a half out in Monterey, California, studying Arabic. Then I took some tours around to do some more training down in Texas. I spent about 5 months there. And then I finished up my training, and it was on the equipment side, how we're going to use the equipment for our electronic surveillance and the like. And that was up at Fort Devens in Massachusetts, about an hour from Boston. And a couple days before we were set to graduate, Saddam invaded Kuwait. And there were a whole bunch of us who were Arabic linguists in this class. We all looked at each other and we said, well, we know where we're going. So yes, I got to my permanent party for Fort Stewart, Georgia, and 3 weeks later I was in Saudi. So that was fun times. Finished out my 4-year enlistment with the Army and came home, got married that summer to my husband. He's still my husband, so it's been long. It's been wonderful. Immediately out of the Army, I started taking classes at the University of Michigan here in Ann Arbor. And I studied I took a variety of classes. I took calculus, I took sciences, I took chemistry, I took physics. I took a lot of intro to computer science classes, Fortran programming, discrete mathematics, logic, things like that. I also took a whole wide variety of liberal arts classes, religion classes, psychology classes, Italian, I was a full-time student for a couple of years. The second year, no, the third summer, the summer of '94, I had to find a job because, my husband was still completing his school. And so we needed some money, and I applied to a variety of places, but I applied to a brand new store. It was just going into in Ann Arbor, called Computer Renaissance. Think of Play It Again Sports for computer equipment. They were owned by the same franchisee, or the same franchisor, GrowBiz International, who does Play It Again Sports, Once Upon a Child, and some of those others. So that's where I rekindled my interest in computers. I started out in a sales position, but got into the servicing side of the house. We did a lot of PCs. We did a lot of Macs, because Macs were very, very invested in the educational space. And so, Ann Arbor being home of the University of Michigan, we had a lot of Macs to fix, sell. I got into the printers, and then as the store grew, we decided that we wanted to start doing some on-site servicing. So I learned how to do hardware, software repair, networks, printers. I have fixed my fair share of printers, let me tell you. But it all, it kept feeding my interest in computers. I eventually became a full-time store manager, and at that point, when I was working full-time, I dropped my college classes back to half-time. So I started going to school part-time, working full-time, and then in 1997, had my first kid, and I actually stopped taking classes because I just couldn't fit any more time in my day. So I paused my college career. Then, through Computer Renaissance, I became a Microsoft certified professional. I believe in Windows NT 4.0. I can't even remember now. It's been so long. Also got my A+ certification for computer repairs and how computers work. And so that just grew and grew and grew. In 2000, I actually had my second kid, and my husband and I were like, well, we can't afford to put two kids in daycare. So I actually stayed at home for 3 years. And so by the end of those 3 years, my husband and I were looking at each other. We're like, one income is not going to cut it. So I went ahead and went searching for a job. I applied for all sorts of positions, primarily focused on network administration. That's what I really wanted to get into. And so I applied to a variety of places. I applied to the loved NT 4.0. Yes, indeed. I applied to our local intermediate school district. I applied to a bunch of manufacturing facilities around here. Just basically anywhere anybody who was looking for some sort of network administration, I dropped my hat in the ring. I actually got hired by a third-party debt collection agency. So I was hired as a network administrator, but that job really grew into so much more. Eventually, I was doing hardware administration, software administration, network administration, telephony, dealing with all things, with our phone system, database administration. I was responsible for, the workflows in our debt collection platform, loading files in, exporting reports for our clients, making sure that, using FTP or SFTP to get those files where they needed to be, making sure our letters went out, making sure, our collectors had calls to make. Basically, if it had technology in the name, I did it. Small shop, I was the only IT person. And so, that was a lot of, yes, collection company. Yes, of course we needed to be PCI compliant because we took credit cards. We took, checks, credit cards. We received money orders. People would sometimes pay in cash. That was less frequent, but we did. While at the collection agency, I had to learn all the compliance regulations, right? Because we collected medical debt, we collected utility debt, we collected bad checks, we collected student loans and other student fees. We also, so I had to become familiar with not only the debt collection laws and regulations like Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, I think is what the TCPA stands for. It's been a while. But I also got into the HIPAA side of the house. FERPA, we had to know all of that, right? And not only do we have those federal laws, all of the states had their own all of the states had their own nuanced takes on debt collection regulations, right? When we could call people, when we could send letters, what our letters had to say. I got into the compliance side of the house there as well. In 2007, I was actually headhunted to go to Sallie Mae because Sallie Mae at the time had a collection arm that had 5 different collection agencies in it. And I basically, when I went to Sallie Mae, the reason why I went to Sallie Mae was because I could work remotely. At the time, that was relatively unheard of, but they were looking for people with my particular skill set dealing with their collection platform for a few of their collection agencies. So I went to work for Sallie Mae in 2017, basically doing database administration is what it boiled down to. Sallie Mae, as you know, pretty big company. So as I progressed there, the culture was too corporate for me. Frankly, I was always looking over my shoulder to see when the bus was going to come hit me. So I decided that I was going to look for something else, and I actually went back to the collection agency, believe it or not. They had moved from Ann Arbor to Jackson, Michigan, which is where I live. And so I went back to the collection agency, and once again, same thing, hardware, software, network, database, telephony, all the compliance requirements. And it's there that we had a client come to us in 2012 and say, you know what? We need you to be ISO 27001 certified. We're like, that's very interesting. We didn't really know a whole lot about it at the time. So what happened was I actually had another person whom I was teaching to do all of the database administration stuff, building those reports, building the structures to import and export files, run reports, make sure tasks ran, and make sure that our workflow was continuing as expected. So he actually drew the short straw and became ISMS manager. And we had totally horrible implementation. It was, we got some very bad advice and we were told that if we bought this one piece of software, that's all we had to do, just run that piece of software, and we would be able to get certified against ISO 27001. Not the case. Our registrar, the person who was going to be responsible for issuing a certificate, looked at us like we were crazy, and we obviously didn't know what we were doing. She said, there is no way I can pass you. And we ended up with 4 major nonconformities in our very first audit. They were fundamental problems with how we had gone about implementing ISO 27001. We didn't have any training set up. We didn't do an internal audit. It was terrible. So we actually contacted Orange Parachute, and with their help, we actually turned it around. We got all of our documentation in place. We had a real audit, internal audit, and we got our program up and running. So we got that taken care of. Our external auditor, the registrar, came in for her second round. They typically do those in stages. So stage 2, we passed without a problem, and we were certified ever since. In 2014, just after we got our certification, the original ISMS manager left, and so I drew the second short straw and became the ISMS manager. And at that time, we had certified against 2005, ISO 27001 2005, and we had to transition to the 2013 standard. So I oversaw that transition, and I'm happy to say that our next surveillance audits and our recertification audit went off without a hitch. So that was good news. I learned a lot through that process. Also in 2015, in addition to ISO 27001, we started having clients ask us for SOC reports. So the very first thing that we went with was SOC 1, which is, yes, it is more financial focused, but there are some information security components to it. SOC 2 is totally information security based. So you'll see some elements of information security in SOC 1. SOC 2 is the more common one that you see for full information security. So in the summer of 2017, I got a call from the gentleman who was the first ISMS manager. I had kept in touch with him, obviously. We were on, it was a good friendship, good standing. And he said, you know what, Sarah, we are drowning over here. We really need your help. I think you'd be a great fit to come help us out. And it was with actually Orange Parachute. So I sent my resume in. Waited around, and finally I texted my friend back and I said, "What's going on? I haven't heard anything." So he says, "Okay, I'll get the president of Orange Parachute to email you back." So I got the email from the president, and it said, Great Castle Security. I'm like, I texted my friend, I'm like, well, what is going on? I don't understand. He said, so what happened was in 2017, fall of 2017, right when I was applying, Grey Castle Security acquired Orange Parachute. And so they came over to Grey Castle Security. I actually was interviewed through the Grey Castle Security process, ran through the gauntlet, so to speak, of interviews. So I had 3 rounds of interviews. The first one was with our HR personnel manager, just to make sure, feel me out, make sure that they could provide, Grey Castle Security could provide what I was looking for from a high level. Then I had a more technical interview with my friend and the president, the former president of Orange Parachute. And that was really interesting because my friend knew me so well that he said it was really funny. They would ask a question. He would put me on mute. He would tell the president, who I hadn't spoken to, formally, maybe a couple of meetings here and there. He would put me on mute. He would tell the president exactly what I was going to say, and then I would say it, and it was the most hilarious thing. So obviously that went well. Will had a good understanding of what my background was, where I came from, experience, because of shared experience getting into ISO 27001 in the first place. And then my final interview with Grey Castle Security was, we're really big on culture here, and people being a good fit with your teammates, because we do a lot of, we work together. So it has to be a good fit. So I went through a variety of mini interviews, making sure that I was a good fit for Grey Castle Security. So fortunately, the end of November 2017, I started with Grey Castle Security. Right out of the box, I got put on a quick turnaround implementation. So the client came in, they did not have anything in place. They had no real documentation. They didn't really have any structure. They had only kind of quasi thought about governance and how to run an information security management system. So I got pulled in. It was supposed to be more of a learning tool for me. But I had the benefit of already having an understanding of the base documentation that Orange Parachute had, because that's what we used to implement finally at the collection agency. So I had a good understanding of the documentation, how it worked, how it addressed the standard, where to use it. And so in a matter of 6 short weeks, we went from absolutely zero, having nothing in place, to going through our certification audits. It was not the ideal situation. That client did come out with quite a few minor nonconformities, which was to be expected, right? We turned everything around on a dime and got them implemented. Not necessarily the way we like to do things around here. It's very difficult to set up an information security management system that will be effective, and it is rough trying to get that information security culture communicated throughout your organization in that short amount of time. But we did it. So that was an interesting, right from the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. So what do I do at Grey Castle Security? Like I said, I work on thanks, Evan. I work on primarily on the compliance space, ISO 27001. I actually do, that's information security. I also do ISO 27701, which is privacy. I with all of the changes coming about, information security and privacy work hand in hand, but they are not the same. And and with all of the new regulations that are coming out, you've got the general data protection regulations over in the EU. You've got California's got their privacy law, the CCPA, the California Consumers Privacy Act, which will soon be replaced by the CPRA. It's like CCPA 2.0, even more GDPR-like. You've got these other these other states that are coming out. Virginia passed theirs. Utah, I think, passed theirs. Nevada has one. And you're just seeing the dominoes fall. And it's not just the states, and Europe. You've got international privacy requirements in legislation that are looking very much like GDPR, with all of its rights of to privacy and how you can control your data, right? So I like to say that privacy is basically where privacy is now where information security was roughly a decade ago. The privacy is up at the top of the list as far as what you need to be concerned about as well. So I do a lot of compliance. I do a lot of risk assessments. So I do NIST risk assessments, 800-53, 800-171. I do HIPAA risk assessments. I'll do data classification projects where we go through, help companies identify what inventory of data they have, where it sits, who touches it, what is in it. Does it have personally identifiable information in it? Does it have HIPAA data in it? Does it have your secret sauce, your company data in it? Financials, legal, etc. So what kind of data is in that repository or in that application? And then as an outcome of that data classification, the client gets not only inventory, but an acceptable use policy. They'll get a data handling policy or standard that identifies what you can and cannot do with the various types of data. I'll also work in policy development. A lot of your compliance, ISO and SOC, are very policy driven. ISO much more so. Yep. Policy development, just guiding my clients in best practices, in not only information security, in all facets of information security. I have a wide variety of clients. ISO is not, it is industry agnostic. It doesn't matter, what kind of industry you're in. It doesn't matter what size your organization is. It can be, you can set up your information security management system to meet the requirements, and it's all risk-based, right? What are the risks to your organization? ISO is not a one-size-fits-all, and there is no single right answer on how you implement ISO. No, I am definitely not the founder of Great Castle Security. Great Castle Security was founded back in 2011, and it's grown. In the services that they offer, and the compliance side of the house is definitely a later addition. So, yep, I am definitely not the founder of Great Castle Security. However, what a cool place to be, right? Um, so I guiding my clients in best practices, guiding my clients through audits, right? Because I've been on the other side of the audit table. I know how nerve-wracking it is to be sitting there and just you feel like you're being grilled in all things information security and how you implement it. And it, like I said, it can be nerve-wracking. And so we guide our clients through how do you answer questions in an audit, getting them more comfortable with answering the auditor's questions. And I'm in a constant state of learning because just like, there is no one size fits all for information security and implementation, there's always so much to learn from, uh, new best practices, right? Technology is in a constant state of change. So we have to keep up on, what's the latest and greatest on how we do something. What are the foundations of any good management system are you've got to understand you've got to understand the context of your organization. Why are you putting this management system into place? You've got to identify the governance, who's going to be responsible for maintaining this thing. And we always want to see information security start from the top down, right? Because if you don't have buy-in at the top, it's going to be really difficult to set that culture throughout your organization. Good management system, risk management, right? It's risk-based. You have to understand where your risks are and how to be able to address them. All right. And I will get to all of your questions shortly here. Support, you have to do a performance evaluation. How well is your information security management system or your privacy information management system? How well is it performing? Is it performing as you intended? And you can, as you are evaluating it, you're gathering metrics on pertinent information, and you're evaluating it, you're analyzing it. You're going to come out with where you may have some corrective actions. You may find some opportunities for improvement. There's always this concept of continual improvement, right? No management system is ever 100% perfect because your business changes, technology changes, your risks change, people change. So we're always looking for that improvement. Okay. Information security is a business problem. It touches everything. It is not an information security, or it is not an IT problem. So it goes beyond just, that little department off on the side called IT. It's a business problem. It touches HR. It touches your marketing and sales. It touches your compliance if you have it, training and awareness. Your people can be your greatest assets. They can also sometimes be your weakest links, right? So you want to make sure that you have them trained. And so it's a business problem that has to be taken a look at holistically, right? And you don't have unlimited resources. Well, most companies don't. So you have to make sure that you are getting the most bang for your buck, and that's where risk management comes into play. What can you do to be successful in information security, or just get into information security? You don't necessarily have to be all techie. You don't have to be a hacker. That's not what all of us do. That's what Evan does. That's not what I do. So, you don't have to be all techie to get into information security. What you do need to do is you need to be able to see the big picture, understand that there is no single right answer to implementing or addressing a problem. And, just understanding that the decisions that you make should be based on good risk management practices. There's no college course that'll give you all of the tools that you'll need to be successful in information security. But going through college, did you hear me say information security in any of my classes that I took? Nope, you did not. What I did learn was critical thinking skills. Okay. It's how to understand, approach a problem and not just, find the solutions that are in a box necessarily, but being able to look outside of the box, being able to look at an organization as a whole, and help guide them in, what makes sense for them. So that's, that if I could get one point across, I think that this is it. There is no single right answer. So there is no single trait that will make you successful in information security. We have on the compliance side of the house, or on the business services side of the house, excuse me, we have people from all walks of life, so to speak. We've got some who did take, cybersecurity classes through college. We've got some people who did not. We've got some people who are very, computers aren't necessarily their forte. That's not where their interest lies. Their interest lies in helping clients. And that's really why I came to Grey Castle Security, because I didn't want my clients going through the same rocky implementation that I went through way back, at the collection agency. That was a horrible feeling, and I don't want my clients to feel like that, and be kind of lost in how to get set up. So, all right. That's my spiel, and I'm sticking to it. So let's go ahead. Let me see what questions we have in the channel that I haven't already addressed. Let's see here. Let's see. I answered that one. Yes, we did have PCI compliance. We do PCI compliance, or PCI audits as well at Grey Castle Security. I don't tend to do those because I'm a little busy with NIST risk assessments, implementations. I also do internal audits for, ISO 27001, ISO 277, or typically not 27701, because I've been implementing them. And when it comes to internal audits, we need that independence, right? We can't have any skin in the game as far as that is concerned, because it might color our decisions for our findings, right? And so we don't want that. And because I've been the primary implementer of privacy information management systems against ISO 27701 here at Grey Castle Security, I cannot run those. I cannot be the auditor for those clients. So yeah, I do internal audits. I've been doing a lot of NIST risk assessments lately for a variety of clients: higher education, healthcare, manufacturing, you name it. And like I like to tell my risk assessment clients, risk assessments, we really want them to be open and brutally honest, because that's the best way that we are going to be able to help them out, is if we know where the skeletons are in the closets. we want to bring those skeletons out to make sure that we can address them. And so I like to tell my risk assessment clients that, judgment-free zone, I've seen a variety because I've done a lot of different clients across a wide variety of industries, and you're going to be hard pressed to surprise me on anything you say. Watch, the next one I do, I'll have a big, huge surprise, and I'll have to eat my words. Let's see here. Looks like otterdeals.com wants to come try break into Great Castle Security, do some physical penetration testing. That's on the tech services side. Let's see here. So we offer, on the technical services side of the house, we offer a variety of services that support the business services side of the house. Risk assessments. A lot of the compliance frameworks require you to have some sort of penetration testing, some sort of vulnerability assessments. PCI, you have to have your regular both internal and external vulnerability assessments, as well as penetration testing. So a lot of your regulations require some sort of penetration testing. We will help our clients set up their corrective actions for any findings that they may have in their penetration testing. I don't typically do that. Security and blockchain is kind of out of my realm of expertise, though. I'm going to be quite frank with you, and I don't know a whole lot about it. So there's that. Okay. All right. So, oops. How did we handle Log4j vulnerability and the Lapsus recent attacks? So we can assist our clients. We've had I believe we've had clients who ask us to come in and look for the Log4j vulnerabilities. Once again, that's on the technical services side of the house. But we do, when we go into organizations from the business services side of the house, we're asking about how do you handle your vulnerabilities? Have you had any security incidents lately? How do you handle those? We also, as on the technical services side of the house, we also do help out with incident response. On the business services side of the house, we help develop plans and procedures to deal with security incidents, running tabletop exercises, things like that. We regularly send out notifications to our clients about various vulnerabilities and what they can do to protect themselves, right? So we see it in NIST, we see it in ISO, we see it in, do we see it in SOC 2? I can't remember now. But you see these questions about how do you keep your finger on the pulse of information security? Where are you getting your information? Do you have membership in various organizations which may send out threat alerts? How do you manage that threat intelligence side of your information security management system or your information security program? And so we, as a service, to our clients, we do provide some threat intelligence for them to help them make sure that they know how to handle things. So when we go in and we do audits and risk assessments, audits will ask to see, if they had a log, for example, if they were vulnerable to log4j, I'd recommend that be handled as a security incident. How do you handle that? What are the processes that you take? Do you go through and make sure you document everything, from how you found it to how you responded, how you fixed it, and then make sure that you also cover lessons learned. When all is said and done, and this goes for either security incidents or business continuity events, disaster recovery events. You need to document what's happening in the moment so that you don't lose that information or lose sight of that information, and you preserve that evidence as necessary. But also, once your response is complete, you're not actually done, right? You need to go back and look at how you responded. How can you improve your program or your response plans? And like I said, that applies to both information security as well as your business continuity and disaster recovery events. How you respond to those, and how can you mature your plans for those responses. And how do we handle pushback on implementation? So for ISO 27001 implementation, that's when we do offer, for organizations just starting out their implementation, we do offer a gap assessment where we come in and we take a look at what they have in place right now. We highlight how it fits the standard, and we take a look to see. That's one of the first questions that we ask is, why are you doing this? Do you have the support of upper management, your leadership, to implement ISO or an information security management system? It's I cannot underscore how critical that leadership commitment is to a program that functions. I have seen organizations where information security is relegated to IT. It's in a silo, and you don't get the necessary resources to be able to build and continually improve an effective system, right? How do we handle that? We actually we drive right to, we drive the points home to, we try to get in front of executive management, that top management layer, to help them understand how information security can benefit their business, right? And get an understanding of why they came to us in the first place to talk about information security and getting a program into place. So that's really how we tackle it. I am not, in my position, I have a very hard time doing checkbox compliance. I am not here in it to, get a client to say, yep, we do this, check. Yep, we do that, check. I really want my clients to have a functioning information security management system, to make sure that, to get it to be part of the culture of their organization, so that people, end users, people who don't typically care about anything IT, they're looking out for those phishing emails. They're concerned about oh, I need to make sure that I lock my computer screen when I walk away from my desk, right? I'm, I'm adhering to my clear desk, clear screen policy at the end of the day, because if something were to happen and it was my fault, I don't want to be the one that, that is the cause of the notifications that have to go out. I'm the one who caused the ransom to be paid to get my data back. I'm the one who ground business to a halt because I did something stupid with somebody's information. It's getting that, that culture built, and it's got to start at the top, right? Um, you know, just like it's pretty tough to get your kids to do what you want them to do, the right thing to do, if you're not doing the right things. Same thing with companies. It starts at the top. And if you don't have that commitment from the top to give you the resources to build a good program, you're going to have a tough time getting it implemented and effective throughout your organization. So checkbox compliance does not do it for me. And I have a hard time relating to those clients who may, that's what they're looking for. I can't do it. So, all right. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns, issues? We call those QCIs. Well, if you have any questions about, business services, technology services, technical services for Grey Castle Security, what it's like to work at Grey Castle Security, I hope I gave you a little more insight into the business services side of the house. Pair that with Evan's talk back in February, where he spoke from the technical side of the house, and hopefully your questions get answered there. If not, feel free to reach out, and we will go from there.